Welcome back. You're watching Nation Tonight. The Indian government has once again reiterated its stand on Rohingyas. In the Supreme Court, the centre stated that illegal Rohingya migrants have no fundamental right to reside and settle in India. It also added that the judiciary cannot enter legislative and policy domains of the parliament and the executive to create a separate category for grant of refugee status to those entering India illegally. The government also stated that India already has large-scale illegal immigration taking place from the bordering Bangladesh, which has changed the demography of states like West Bengal and Assam, and that if it continues, it will pose serious national security challenges. The top court, remember, was hearing a plea seeking the release of detained illegal Rohingyas. Now, if you look at it from a wider perspective, remember the political upheaval in Myanmar since a military coup back in February 2021 has created a complex and a very precarious situation for human trafficking as well between India and Myanmar. India shares a 1,642-kilometer long porous border with Myanmar that just adds to the rising illegal immigration from a chaotic Myanmar. So how is this problem to be tackled? Why does India has its reservations with Rohingyas coming in, and what are the national security challenges that India faces due to illegal immigrants? Let's deep dive into it. On the broadcast, I'm joined by General Dhruv Katoch. He's Director, India Foundation. I'm also joined by Desh Ratan Nigam. He's a lawyer. Good evening and namaskar to both of you gentlemen. Welcome to Nation Tonight. Let me start with you, General Katoch. How do you see this? India reiterating once again that illegal Rohingyas will not be citizens of this country, and the fact that, the Indian government keeps on repeating that there is a national security concern with them.
Thank you, Shreya. Shreya, let me talk first about the legal provision. You see, when we're looking at the 1951 convention, which was later on amended by the 1961 protocol, India is not a signatory to those protocols, but however, we have been following most of those conventions. Yes. Now, there are two things actually as far as those protocols are concerned. One, it talks about refugees coming directly from a territory where their life or freedom has been threatened. Now, these Rohingyas have not come directly from Myanmar to India. Let us make that very clear. They have come via Bangladesh, and it was the responsibility of Bangladesh to give them refuge. So their refugee status actually finishes, as far as India is concerned, at Bangladesh itself. That notwithstanding, a large number have actually illegally found their way into India. Now, the convention also states the contracting state shall not expel a refugee lawfully in their territory, save on grounds of national security or public order. Now, I think this is a very important provision which has been given. Now, we are concerned about both these conditions, national security and public order. I want to state that when these Rohingyas were actually living in Myanmar, their militant groups there, the terrorist groups there, they butchered whole-scale Hindu villages. So it is not something which is new to them. They have been doing this from earlier times when they were in Myanmar. What is there to prevent them from doing it again? That is one. Number two, as you have mentioned in your opening remarks, the topography has changed tremendously. Now, we cannot allow millions of them to again come back to India, posing serious problems to our own, to the citizens of India. So as far as I am concerned, the Rohingyas have got no place in India. They should be deported back. They are refugees. They are illegal refugees, let me say it, and they must go back. Shreya.
Okay, Desh Ratan Nigam, people who support Rohingyas coming in argue the fact that, where else will they go? They're being persecuted in their own country. If India doesn't help them, then who will? Also, the fact that they carry UNHCR refugee cards, which India says that, we don't approve of, but that's what they show.
Well, Shreya, in fact, let me tell you, as General Katoch clearly pointed out, India is not a signatory to UN refugee resolution or conventions. Therefore, we do not recognize UNHCR cards. And that cannot be a claim. It's a policy and legislative decision, and that has to be respected. And as long as the law exists, they cannot be given refugee status. They are illegal immigrants. As clearly pointed out by General Katoch, the first right is Bangladesh. And once you go to Bangladesh and then come to India, then clearly there is some kind of an ulterior motive. Now, if you look at our constitution, look at the preamble. We, the people of India, have given this constitution for the people, of the people, and by the people of India. And the people are citizens, not the entire world who stays in India. They may be visitors, some may be refugees, some may be a huge amount of them are illegal immigrants who have changed the demography, especially in Assam and West Bengal, creating a lot of problems. The problem of terrorism also, recently one Samun Rahman, a British national and henchman of Al-Qaeda and Al-Nura commanders, was arrested from Vikaspuri in Delhi, where his clear aim was to radicalize the Rohingyas and to wage a war against Indian security forces and Myanmar army. Besides, the Jaish-e-Mohammed chief, Maulana Masood Azhar, has come in open support of Rohingya Muslims who are staying in Jammu and Kashmir. And especially in the border areas, they have been settled by the previous governments. In Rajasthan, in Delhi, and they have been seen participating in a number of criminal activities and the riots. So they are both threat to your national security, domestic securities, internal security. They do not have any fundamental right to equality under Article 14 because that is available to our citizens. They have only right on humanitarian ground to right to life and restricted, liberty under Article 21. And why I'm saying restricted? Because they cannot be allowed to travel freely because they're being illegal immigrants. And therefore, let us be very, very clear. These are policy and legislative decisions. A Supreme Court, through its judicial order, cannot create a class of refugees in India. It is a policy decision, can be created by Parliament. And as long as the law exists that they are illegal immigrants, no force on earth, can grant them any other status. Only the Parliament can do it. So therefore, the government of India has taken a very clear stand by way of an affidavit in the Supreme Court, citing various reasons about law and order, threat to the national security, and various other issues that they have, change in demography, destruction of indigenous culture in border areas, and large number of Rohingyas and Maldivian Muslims have been found in Kerala, Tamil Nadu. Bangladeshis in Hyderabad. They are encroaching upon the various rights. And this is not a topic of politicization. It requires the national interest first, national security first, your nation first, then comes everything. And therefore, instead of politicizing it, we have to take a very clear stand.
Can I also ask then General Katoch? Yeah, General Katoch, you're somebody who served in the army as well, somebody who's well versed with the ground situation. Help us understand what are the kind of challenges that come in, because the fact of the matter is that India and Myanmar is a very long 1,642 kilometer long border, and it's porous. It's not a fenced, firm border like we have at other places. So it sort of increases our challenges more.
You are right, Shreya, as far as the India-Myanmar border is concerned. But when we are looking at the Rohingya issue, they came from the Rakhine state. And that borders Bangladesh. It does not border the Myanmar districts. So when we are looking at Myanmar, when we are looking at where the Chins are staying, etc., the Rohingyas haven't come that way. So they haven't entered Mizoram or Nagaland or Manipur from that direction. They have come to Bangladesh first. So I don't think there is a very major problem as far as the Myanmar border is concerned. Yes, there is some movement of militant groups, Indian militant groups who take shelter in Myanmar. But these are very small groups. There is also drug smuggling, etc. But all that can be handled and controlled. The question is, when people start moving en masse, there is an ulterior motive, as Mr. Nigam has so rightly stated. Why are they coming in the hundreds of thousands? Why right from that point of time, they have traveled through the length and breadth of India and settled down in Jammu and Kashmir, where in Jammu and Kashmir, the earlier governments did not even allow.
Because the argument that's given is that they are persecuted in their own country. The Myanmar authorities are oppressing them there. So they're coming out in large numbers to India. That's the argument that's given.
That argument is taken. But they came to Bangladesh where they were not persecuted. You see, and then they have traveled the length and breadth of Bangladesh and come into India. Then they go all the way across to Jammu and Kashmir. It is not an accident. There is a motive behind all this, and I think that is what the government is referring to. We cannot allow these concerns to be just somebody to just say, okay, no, on human rights, conditions, we must actually look after them. We have got absolutely no obligations. Yes, I will grant that Bangladesh has the obligations, and they must live up to those obligations. Please remember, when there were refugees in Bangladesh in 1971, India took in 10 million of them. We didn't complain at that point of time. And they were from all religious groups, so it is not a religion-based thing. But now these people are coming via Bangladesh, where there was no persecution, especially because the religions were identical. There are Muslims there, and Bangladesh is a Muslim state. Okay. So there was no religious persecution. Then why have they come in? Now, that is the question which has to be answered. And I don't think there's any answer for that. As far as I'm concerned,
Mr. Nigam, you wanted to make a point. Yeah.
See, the fact is, if you look at the perspective...
Mr. Nigam, please go ahead.
If you look at the context in which they are coming into India. First, initially what happened in Myanmar, and a situation was created by the militants, the Rohingya Muslim militants, of chaos by attacking and massacring Hindus and attacking Buddhists. When the army took action out there, it was a deliberate ploy. That entire population was ensured by the Rohingya militants to ensure that they be displaced and moved into Bangladesh and then into India. So there was a clear ulterior motive behind it. And even otherwise, India is a sovereign nation. As a sovereign nation, it has a right to decide who comes into India. It cannot be that the entire world be allowed to come into India. Yes, under the CAA, with a very narrow objective, that India had the responsibility of the minorities of the erstwhile, united India, and hence they have a right to take care of the persecuted minorities in those countries, because there is a historical perspective, failure of the Nehru-Liaquat Pact, and so many things. So therefore, the Rohingyas coming into India, Muslim Rohingyas, do not have any fundamental right to settle and reside in India. The Constitution does not give them any right. It is done under a policy of the Government of India, under the laws made by the Parliament, and it cannot be free for all. Otherwise, there will be chaos in India. With the limited resources that we have come out of the abject poverty, yes, but the poverty still remains, although not abject. So those are the issues that we have to deal with.
So
apart
what's
from
the way
national
forward?
Security.
Mr. Nigam, how do we resolve this challenge?
They have to be deported. Clear and simple. They are illegal immigrants and they have to be deported. Yes, after consultation with Myanmar, because they have to take them back. Myanmar also has issues, and illegal immigrants cannot be kept here. They should be kept in detention centers.
Which is not very encouraging from Myanmar's side as well. That's what I was going to say. They're not very welcoming of them either.
So the fact is, it is their citizens. It is their responsibility, not India's responsibility. Yeah. And India, not being a part of UN, it will resolutions, it will decide under the laws such as Passport Act and otherwise. It cannot be given that since they are not taking them back, then they will remain as illegal immigrants. And through diplomatic channels with the Myanmar government, I am sure the process has already been started for deporting them and sending back to Myanmar.
Okay. Last question to you, General Katoch. Then, what according to you on ground can be done to actually deal with this sort of challenge?
No, very frankly, I think, one, we must identify all the people who have yet not been identified, and a very large number of them still exist. They must be identified and put into, as a first step, into those refugee camps. After putting them into the refugee camps, then we have to take it up with both the government of Myanmar and the government of Bangladesh that these people must go back. And as Mr. Nigam has so rightly stated, they are not our problem. You see, we are not the Dharamshala of the whole world, that anywhere there is a problem, they have to come to India. There are 52 Muslim nations. I'm surprised not a single one of them is accepting them. So the question is, we have our problems. We are going to have a very serious law and order problem, a public order problem, if these people are allowed to stay here. We are going to have a huge national security problem because the Lashkar-e-Taiba and other groups are already in touch with the Rohingyas. So when I look at this, it really points a very horrifying picture that here you have got a captive audience by the terrorist groups which are trained by the Pakistanis. They've got the inroads into the Rohingyas. And now if we are going to allow them to a free spread into the country, then I'm afraid the internal security situation is going to explode once again. It cannot be allowed. They must be sent back. And if Myanmar doesn't accept them, then Bangladesh has to accept them. I'm afraid that's the way it is. Shreya.
Okay. Okay, we'll leave it there. General Katoch and Desh Ratan Nigam, thank you very much to both of you gentlemen for sharing your thoughts and helping us get a perspective on this challenge of the illegal immigrants of Rohingyas. Thank you very much.